Okay, so we just reviewed things that we learned last time, and if you didn't get that, you're welcome to go get that recording. Whoever invited you here has it. It's on YouTube. Tonight we're going to do two parts. One is how to write an epic adventure. And even if you've done them before, sometimes it helps to get some refresher on that. And the second part is something that I was looking through this week and realized that I had written out my top 10 tips for experiencing a great epic adventure. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you guys. And let's see. Let me do this. Okay, here we go. Hold on a second. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. And if you guys have, if you guys have questions, you can put them. Oh, you can't see my face, can you? I should be the one in the speaker in there. Hold on.
I can see your face just fine.
Oh, you can see my face in the. Oh,
yeah, a little square. When you share your screen, there's still a little square. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see. Here we go. There. All right. I haven't done this off of Google Docs for a while. Okay. I kept thinking about this. I tried to make this super simple. It isn't rocket science, but it is a lot of work, but you can do it. And I love this quote from Lady Catherine de Bourgh. No governess? How is that possible? 5 daughters brought up at home without a governess? I never heard of such a thing. Your mother must have been quite a slave to your education. So I don't feel like I was a slave to my kids' education because I just had so much fun as well. But this is what we're going to go through tonight. The year theme, the rationale, meaning the why are we doing this? Gathering the info, organizing the info, then making mind map of it, and putting kid grabbing titles into the theme, and then key points, inquiries, and a song and field trip visitors and accoutrements, which we'll talk about that. Okay, what is the big idea that you want to do for the year? And I'm going to give you some ideas. So this was one of ours one year. We decided we wanted to do, we called it Swords of Honor, a Knight's Crusade for Right. Okay, and the big idea, basically the big idea was that we were going to learn about the Middle Ages. And so if you see under the Knights Crusade for Right over here on the right-hand side, it says Miles Christi Sum. It's Latin and it means I am a soldier of Christ. So what we did was, if you look over on this is a mind map, but it's like a creative one. So on the very left, the little, I don't know if you guys can see my pointer, but anyway, there's the Armaturum Dei, and it means the armor of God. So that's why there's all these armor pieces under here. We did a couple of weeks where we just learned about the armor of God. And then we launched into 3 major components. And then we ended this, we said we called it Deeds of Arms, and it was how the kids could get knighted by the end of the year. Okay. So yeah, the thing is that when you're doing a big idea for the year, we like to do things like have a second layer. So even though it's about the Middle Ages and everything that we were studying, the big idea behind it, the layer of spirituality or whatever, was that we were soldiers of Christ. Okay, and here's the same kind of thing. Like what I told my kids, we studied the American Girls, and you can go look at this on my blog and see our years. But basically telling them, you know, that they are blessed to live in America, et cetera, et cetera. And that was the big idea behind it.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, hi, if you guys want to mute yourself, thanks. This was my second year I did. My daughter was in 4th grade, and we thought, okay, we have to follow what the public school says. So we did a California year, and we loved it. It was actually really fun. But the big idea for the year is that we were going to have all these campfires, and then and that was the center point of everything we were doing. And the 3 main components are up here on the right-hand side. We studied the Native Americans, the Indians in California, and then we studied the Spanish influence, and then we studied the other Americans and their influence. And we used to start, and this is a good idea too, is teaching kids about their brain for the first week so they know why we're doing this. Okay, the next part is a rationale. Whoops, I put rational. I didn't finish the E. Anyway, so through the eyes of Abigail Adams and her compatriots, our children will understand the Revolutionary War and the founding of America. One time, this is my first school year that I wrote. And as we were writing this, my friend and I, we didn't really know what we were doing at all. But in the middle of it, we just got stuck and we didn't know what to do. And that's when my friend said, oh yeah, we're supposed to write a rationale. Like, why are we doing this? And so, or how and why, right? And so the why for this, the how is through the eyes of Abigail Adams and her compatriots, but the why is so that they'll understand the Revolutionary War and the founding of America. So as soon as we wrote that, everything fell into place. So make sure you have your why. You get your big idea, but then you have to decide why you're doing it. Okay, then gather your info. And I always say this, study brings passion. So you decide what you want to do, and then you start reading up on it, read kids' books, whatever. And all of a sudden things will pop into your head. Oh, that would be a really fun field trip. I don't know where we'll put it, but I'm going to write down this idea. So start gathering ideas. Then you want to organize your year. So I'm going to go into this a little bit deeper, but you have the year theme, excuse me, the year theme for this, and the name of it is called A Magic Carpet Ride to Lands of Enchantment. What we planned to do was to, since the year before we'd studied America, we decided this year we were going to learn about some countries. So we were starting in Persia. And if you look right here, the land of the nobles, I think I told you guys about this last time. Anyway, and we were going to fly east to India and China and Japan. So Persia, India, China, and Japan, those are our 4 big components of the year. Then topics are sections within the components. And if you look on this mind map, you can't see any of those topics because I guess sometimes we put them on and sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's just too much to try to smash in, and we'd rather just have the pretty picture. Okay, so there you can see there's a big picture idea, and then the idea of flying east to all these Oriental lands. And the big picture idea underneath it too was that we're blessed and to live in America, and that God loves all his children. So we were going to learn about everything. And actually, I'm just finishing my 2nd blog about that. I'm finishing more blogs. So, okay, so let's look at China. If you were to take China, here's a component. The next thing, breaking up China underneath it, let's put it into parts. What could we do? Well, here's the topics that we did. We decided to do geography, culture, history, and contributions. And the way we came up with that, I mean, I wrote it. And the way I came up with it is I gathered all this information, and then I thought, okay, we want the topics to flow into each other. Like, you don't just want to jump into the contributions of China why don't we show them the geography first? Like, where is China? Give them some context. So we started with that, and we did that for all of the countries that we did. So what you want to do is, I love it when we do that, when we have the same exact types of topics for each component. It just makes it feel like your kids get to the next country and they know, boom, we're going to do geography first, right? And then they'll learn the culture, history, and contributions. Okay. Next, here's a mind map. And if you look at these mind maps right here, let's see. I don't know if I can. All right, I'll put me right there. Okay, anyway, here's the mind map, but here's one of the parts. So when you, hold on. So when you look at California or bust, you can see grizzly government underneath. And this was me throwing ideas on here, and this wasn't what I shared with the kids. Obviously, it was just me throwing on there the ideas for what we could teach them. And the three big points in this topic were, our state government is set up like the federal government. And so if I told them Sacramento was like Washington, D.C., we'd already studied that so they could understand a little bit that was our capital. Then there was Constitution in 3 branches, like they understood that: executive, judicial, legislative, right? And then lastly, that there was a local government and what we can learn about that. So there. That's what a mind map is. And if you don't know more about mind mapping, we do it really loosely here, and sometimes we do it more detailed. It just depends. Okay, here's one of a year mind maps that we had. And we had 3 major components. And we actually, if you look at this, it's, see, here's a violin bow and there's an art brush. So we did Renaissance and Reformation time period, Baroque and classical time period, and Romantic and Impressionists. And did we do modern? No, mostly not. But anyway, that's what we did for the year. And there was a really great, well, you can see Touch of the Master's Hand. There was a really great underlying theme to that. Oh, here's one. We decided we were going to study Paul, Joan of Arc, and Joseph Smith. And we had this idea for why we were doing all 3. Anyway, I'm not going to go into all of it, but but our way to grab the kids so that they would be excited about everything is we decided to be pirates of the courageous beings, and we were going to kidnap these people from history and then learn about them. Okay, that was fun. Okay, here's one too. We studied the American Girls, the original American Girls, and there were 8 of them. I think there's 8 of them. Anyway, this is not a mind map. It's just a map, but it worked better for us to be able to see where everyone was. And we did go in chronological order. That's something that is easy to do. History is an easy, an easy framework to put things on because you just go in order. Okay, kid grabbers are changing the names. Like if we had told our kids, okay, guys, this year we're going to have a geography year and we're going to learn about Persia, India, China, and Japan. Like, that doesn't sound very exciting. But if we tell them it's the magic carpet ride to lands of enchantment, and now under China, it's the Silk Road. And anyway, you can see what they are. Okay. You kind of get the idea of that. Sometimes we go crazy with kid grabbers and we make them so weird that we can't even remember what the topic's about. So just try to remember what your stuff is, or do it like this, where you put out the name, but then maybe in parentheses after it, say what you're really studying. Okay. Then lastly is key points. What key points are? They're jumping off points for your kids to really learn something. Key points is the E. It's the exposure. It's you're exposing them to something. That's the very first thing. Okay. Now that you have this, the framework for the year is the pattern that they're going to see. Now the key points are how do they like being exposed to that. So I just thought this would be perfect to show you how this was my second year of writing a year theme, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but this worked. Okay, A desert is an area of land having less than 10 inches of average annual rainfall. For kids that are 9 and 7 and 4, this was perfect. Okay, 9, 7, and 5. Anyway, this was really perfect. And yeah, we live in the Mojave Desert. I didn't write the food. I didn't tell them the food chain of the Mojave Desert. I think I told them some stuff about it. But here's a key point. A thermometer measures heat. For kids, that's a perfectly good key point. Okay. Then here's the inquiries that go with it. And we'll get to more, but inquiries are what you do with it. I really like this when what you want to do. Here's a really simple way to know about what you do for inquiries. Like, how do they actually work with the information? How do they? Is everybody muted? Okay. Use a verb. Okay, because a verb gives them a direction of what to do, like tell, list, write, illustrate, build, right? Act out, make, all right? So give them a verb, underline it. It makes it super clear. Like list plants that thrive in the Mojave Desert, list animals that do, write a story. You can see them. But do you see how it's pretty simple? You can do this. You don't even have to type it up, which later I did type up I was just looking at them in my binder. This was 1992, 1991. So I looked at them in my binder and I actually typed them up. There was no such thing as personal computers in my house at that time. But you can see what I did here with this mind map. I actually took a mind map and the name of this topic is prickly cactus. And then off of the prickles, I ended up putting the points to the year. Is everybody good? Whoops. Here. There we go. So you can see, you can play around with it. I really liked making picture mind maps for the kids because it was more fun than just drawing circles and lines on a page. Next is have a song. Write, amend, or borrow a song that you will sing all year long. Is everybody good or am I going too fast? I'm good. Sarah says that it's good. Okay. Okay, thanks. What you're trying to do is not shove a bunch of information into their heads. These key points are not, you're not giving them very much. In fact, brain compatibility says you're only to speak for 10 to 16 minutes at a time. And that was in 1990. Nowadays, it might be 5 minutes. Okay. Hopefully your kids can learn better and learn how to sit still more. But I didn't go into the key points, like how you would actually do it. Let me go back really fast to that. Whoops. Here. I just want to show you here. How could you share it with the kids? Well, you could just use a whiteboard or a like a big pad of paper and do this for the kids. And then they can, in their binders, they can take their blank pages and do the same thing and follow you as you talk about it. Or you could, I don't know, grab some pictures of some deserts or something and share it that way. Or you could be a visitor. One time I came as a visitor during our secret garden year, as we were in the book Secret Garden. I came as dirt. I had this material thrown over my head and I had stuff smudged on my face and I was dirt as opposed to soil. And I was teaching them the difference between dirt and soil and why it was important to have soil in our gardens versus dirt. Anyway,
sorry.
Yeah.
This thing that you're showing right now. So this is the key points for a lesson that you're teaching, not for the whole year.
Right.
Oh, okay. I'm
right.
like a very, okay, sorry. I understand now. Thank you.
Yeah. And this was just for that California campfires that you saw. It wasn't even, I don't even think this was really one of our topics, but it was just something I wanted to share with the kids for the week or something. Maybe it is in there. Anyway, I just wanted to share with them. I actually caught a snake. I put my hand down this hole and grabbed the snake as it was going into the hole. I made sure there weren't rattlers, but I grabbed a snake. We did all this fun desert stuff. And so fun things will come to you if you focus on your theme. It will envelop your whole family. Like our family, even today we say, remember during the Shakespeare year when X, remember during this, right? So this was just one little thing. But what I wanted to say is there's lots of different ways that you can present the key points. So for example, you could have a visitor like dirt, right? You could have, you could just, if you really didn't want to do anything formal like this, but you wanted them to know something, grab a book on it. Grab a kid's book that's pretty simple. Read that book to them. I mean, we did that stuff anyway. So you could read that to them and say, okay, now we've learned about some deserts, and then you could have some inquiries for them, or you could have them help you choose some inquiries. So like you saw, some of the inquiries were, they could build a diorama or something of a desert, things like that. The idea is you're not shoving information into them. You're lighting a fire. You're getting them excited about this, about learning. Okay. Like when we learned about the 3 kinds of rocks, we ended up taking a metamorphic rock and made stone soup, and we read the book Stone Soup, and we did it. And, my kids will always remember the hand motions now that go with how stones. So it doesn't have to be super formal is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. So then the song, I just want to say, you can see we used A Whole New World from Aladdin. And we took a lot of their words, but you can see, let's discover the world, shining, shimmering, splendid, Persia, India, China, to the islands of Japan. Okay, right there, I've given them a key point because now they know that Japan is islands, right? Okay, but what this does, we put the music with it, and oh, even now I cry whenever that version of that song comes, because it brings up the whole year, the whole exciting thing of the year. Somebody put something in the chat, and oh gosh, Brittany, you are funny. Okay. Brittany, we'll have you sing at the end. Anyway, it's really fun to do that. So amend a song if you want. And Bridie talked about this last time, that she didn't change the song. She just picked one that went with her year. And we did that too. In fact, anyway, there's too much I can tell you about that. But let me talk about field trips and visitors now. I want you to know that it doesn't have to be this over-the-top thing. If you go to on my blog, my first several years, I had a bunch of babies, and there was no internet. And so I didn't know what was in Southern California. And even if I could have, I couldn't have driven them all over Southern California like I did later when I only had a couple of kids at home and there was an internet and I was in a big group. And we went all over the place and had amazing field trips. But when we first started, our field trips, like we went on maybe 2 the whole year. But what we did do is we had visitors come. This is really a simple thing. Now we've all got dresses and stuff. But all we did was, we had a tea, and we talked about how girls in colonial times, how they refused sugar in their tea, and all about that. Or they refused to drink tea. Yeah, they refused to drink tea. I was thinking of the Britons. Okay, anyway, they refused to drink tea. And then we learned, like I taught them the Virginia reel afterwards, but we did it to colonial music instead of, instead of 18th or 19th century music, we used 18th century music. Anyway, simple, but it was a fun day where you can see the kids are having fun, and we didn't go anywhere. Okay, here's a visitor for the California campfires. I didn't know that many people. I had not lived in the town that long. We didn't know that many people. So I had made this scarecrow for Halloween. And afterwards I went, I got to use this guy. So I turned him into a conquistador. And I actually took a poster board and made this hat that looked like this conquistador's hat, because the the big component was, or maybe it was just the topic, it was conquistadores calientes, so hot conquistadors, okay? I mean, we don't know how to speak Spanish. But anyway, the kids went wild over this, all the stuff they did, and they shook his hand and everything. It was really fun, right? Do something fun like that. This is just from a video. We didn't take pictures. We forgot, but I was Queen California. And all I did was throw a sheet on and some shells and stuff. And I had a conch shell, and I came out and I let all the kids hear it. And I told them the legend of Queen California, because they thought California was an island, right? Oh, here's my son dressing up as a conquistador because he was inspired. Excuse me. We asked a friend, we didn't give her very many days, and she dressed up as Rosie the Riveter for our World War II day. And it was really fun. And she was really nervous, and yet we loved it. It was such a fun day. And look, it's just easy. She put her hair in a bandana. She ended up putting Rosie on her shirt. I don't know what she did, stickers or something, but it was so cute. Here's for field trips. What does a garden have to do with World War II? Well, one of our big components for World War II was the home front, and victory gardens were huge. And oh man, this was such a huge, amazing garden to go see. And it was really awesome. And they taught us a lot of stuff about gardening. This one is the Huntington, for those of you in Southern California. The Huntington has nothing to do with ancient Greeks and Romans. But they do have this shield, which is Achilles' shield. And I knew it was there. So I'm like, okay, we're going on a field trip. So this is my Latin class. This was the same year. And there was this, I can't remember what it's called, but it's in the high desert. And they make buildings out of dirt, and they fill sandbag type things with dirt and then make these buildings from it. And so we went there and learned all about the Roman arch as opposed to the Gothic arch. See, it doesn't have to be, get outside the box about what fits the theme, because you wouldn't think that going to a builder would be about Romans and Greeks, but it fit. Accoutrements. The next thing is accoutrements. So accoutrements are, let me just go back 1 second here. Hang on. I just want to tell you one thing about visitors, and that is the way we had visitors, what we did was we gave them a sheet of paper or whatever, and we usually gave them the costume, unless they had it, and a sheet of paper with like a couple of paragraphs or more, and asked them to share these kind of key points. And of course they didn't have to be perfect. And excuse me, they usually didn't look at the page because they're standing up there and they're that person, right? So we gave them a little background info on the person and then hoped that they could share that. Well, it didn't really matter what they shared. They showing up and us saying, this is Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, right there, they're getting some key points because they find out he's an Italian and he's this inventor, right? On and on. But what happens is when the kids would ask them questions afterwards, sometimes they'd have to say, I'm not sure, it's been 300 years, so I don't remember that long ago, or whatever, okay? And they were amazing. Sometimes these visitors would come up with their own things, like Benjamin Franklin came over and he brought the most amazing electrical experiment for us to do. And it was just fun to watch other people, trying to help us. Okay, accoutrements are the things that you want to have with your year to just have fun. I didn't know anything about doing costumes or anything, but this was a day we got together with the school group that we were with. There was only one other family. This was our first year, and it was the Revolutionary War. This is the Abigail Adams one. I didn't have anything. And look at these kids. They've got little vests on. And the hats, the ones that are colored, I had these wild hats from some kind, I don't know what they were from. And I just took a stapler and I stapled them and turned them into tricorn hats. And then the other girl with the white one, that's just a poster board, you see? And look they have sticks with some cardboard bayonets taped to the end. they were amazing. And we gave them the real words from Major Pitcairn, disperse you rebels. And anyway, my 4-year-old son here got so into this year that halfway through the year, he runs inside and he had found a dime in the backyard. And he said, Mom, look, I found a shilling. Okay, that's what you want to hear. It's fun. There's simple things like this. I mean, this was for our Greek and Roman year, and all the kids got to choose which demigod they wanted to be, and she's Artemis. But it was simple. I think we put this outfit together in I don't know, on our opening day at home. I just had to show this because it was in there, but look at what we made. I'm going to post about, we actually built a stage, but it was set up as a Greek temple in somebody's backyard. It was really fun. Okay, here's some accoutrements, journals of discovery. And if you want to know more about journals of discovery, I have a whole blog post about them on my blog. So what makes these fit the theme? Well, you can see the Hero Generation one, that was the year, this 2008, 2009, that was the year we learned about World War II. And we had this really talented lady make all of these. She made all of them, but we didn't have to do it. When you have a big group, then sometimes you can just divide up all the work. But she made these camo journals for us. And then this one, you can see this went with our Greek and Roman year. This was a Jane Austen, Charles Dickens Literary Society year. And this one right here is for Shakespeare. And I didn't make these two. Other people made them, and then I just got to pay them. It was awesome. But some years, you just buy a journal or get one or whatever, and then let your kid decorate it or whatever you want. And Journals of Discovery really did change a lot of what we did in our home. I came up with the idea because I saw something about this up in a gift shop one time when we were looking at the journey of discovery of Lewis and Clark. And I went, we're going to have journals of discovery. Okay, what do you say if people people have said this? They never said it to me because my kids were always really smart and they could read and everything. But I've heard that people would say, well, it looks like they're just playing. What would you say to that? It made me think of have you seen the Pixar movie when they talk about the animators? Here's somebody's office. All right. It does look like they're playing because they are. Play is the highest form of learning. But remember what Maria Montessori said, if teachers would see themselves first as purveyors of pleasure rather than instructors of skill, they may find that skill will flourish where pleasure has been cultivated. Boy, that is the truth. We want them to really learn. When I got to, what was I going to say? I'll share something at the end about that. But I found this other quote. Einstein said, it is in fact nothing short of a miracle that the modern methods of instruction have not yet entirely strangled the holy curiosity of inquiry. According to Leonardo, the master teacher is one who pursues delight to follow ecstasy in learning, is to move easily toward an education, a society that would free the enormous potential of man. So it does look like play. It really does. But how many people have said to me, can my kids come to your school? Because they'd see my kids having so much fun, but learning at the same time. Remember, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. You can see that was our Joan of Arc year. Okay, I'm gonna get out of this and hold on here. If you want to put me in a bigger spot on your computer, you can. For some reason, oh, I know, you scroll over my square and you hit when the little 3 dots pop up on the right-hand side in the corner of my square, then you click on those dots and hit pin. And then I will be big on your screen, okay? So here we go. All right. I'm going to just show you now. The rest of it, I mean, you guys probably have questions, and that's okay. We'll talk about it. But the rest of what I want to share with you is how do you put this together for having a great year? Now that we've got like some nuts and bolts about doing it. Well, my number one tip, which is not even in the list of the top 10, it's like the most important of all. And that is pray for your children and pray for yourself, because I wouldn't do this without God's help. But the first of my top 10 tips is get a vision of what you want to do for the year. And I've got some notes here. And if you guys want some of my stuff, I can send it to you. But get a vision not only of what you want your kids to learn as far as academics, but like what do you hope that they could become in their personality, in their character, right? So it's not just about academic learning. And how do you get a vision? Become passionate about your subject. And I told you passion comes from study. So get a passion for the year, for what you want to do. Let your kids see you study about it. It will rub off and they will love it. You don't have to know everything at once. In fact, you just have to be one step ahead of them. And you don't even have to be one step ahead. You can be learning simultaneously with them. But you help them get excited by getting passionate yourself. Number 2, learn and share the principles of EPIC. Teach your kids this, that I told you, I think I told you in the last one, when we talked about EPIC and how your brain works. I used to, after I did that for a while, after I used to speak like at CHN and, California Homeschool Network and Utah Homeschool Conference. I don't remember what it was called, but we've been to a few of them, and we used to give, my friend Karen and I used to do these seminars and things for people. And after we started putting things together, I thought, I really need to show this to my kids this way and help them remember every year so that they don't say, why are we doing inquiries? Like, what's the point of the thing? You teach them why, and it will help them, because otherwise they might just say, well, we're not doing it the way our friends in high school are doing it. And then they think they're not as smart. Okay. Third is prepare and get help. I put 2 of them together. Prepare the school year as much as you can before you get started. And then you're not scrambling every day like, what do we do today? It's too hard to get inspired. I mean, yes, I still did that. I had to keep trying to re-inspire myself sometimes through the year, and that's okay. But as long as you have as much as possible laid out, it's easy just to go, oh, this is what we're doing today, and you've got it. And the part about getting help is getting help from your kids, meaning, and I don't know how to say this right, but I didn't wash dishes for like 20 years. And that's not really true, but basically I didn't clean a lot of my house because I had to be helping them all day long. I didn't have time to clean while they were at school. So we had chores before school started. We didn't do chores after, except for, setting the table and stuff. But we did do once a week, I would write out like things that needed deep cleaning. Like maybe there were 10 things for the week, like wiping baseboards or whatever. And I'd let all the kids put their initial by the thing that they wanted to do. And I made sure there were little things and I made sure there were bigger things. So, like cleaning the fans, that kind of stuff. And I always let the little kid pick first, and they got to put their initial by it. And then it kept going all the way up through all the kids. And if they had to pick 2 jobs, then they got to keep picking. And then whatever was left over, the 1 or 2 things that was left over, then I would do those. My husband and I would do them. Okay. So you're not doing your kids a favor if you don't get them to work. In fact, the first story that we ever heard about the woman who, I think I told you guys this before, how she was like the pioneer of homeschooling, and her kids went to Harvard and Yale and all these things. And when people asked her what her secret was with homeschooling her kids, she said she homesteaded a place and she taught her kids how to work hard. So your kids better learn how to work, because that's the world we live in. They need to be able to work. If they work, they'll be able to work in school too and put in effort. Number 4, this is so important if you can, And that is stay on schedule as much as possible. So to that end, I'm going to tell you how to organize your year in just a second here. We talked about organizing your year, but I'm going to give you more nitty gritties. But you don't make your curriculum, don't write too big of a curriculum, because then you'll get bogged down into stuff and you won't be able to finish. We usually started our epic adventure after Labor Day. And then we plan to be finished with all of our key points and all the presentations and everything by April 30th. And that gives us time to finish up any projects. If kids have research projects they need to finish, and then get ready for our closing day. So if you can trust me on this, just plan for just between September and April to do your school, because it always does spill over a little bit. Okay, I'm going to tell you what my personal favorite year of all time was. Not necessarily of all time, but my favorite schedule and how we kept on schedule. So it was this one that I showed you. We had about 3 weeks with this armor of God. So we had a little component, and then this one was just a little thing at the end. We hardly had anything, but we had 2 little components and 3 major components. Within each 3, we had 3 topics, and they were the same for each of this. So King Arthur, St. Francis of Assisi, and Joan of Arc. Does this look backwards? I don't know if it's backwards for you guys, but anyway, hopefully you can see the pictures. King Arthur, the way all 3 topics were person, place, and thing. So we learned about King Arthur, we learned about merry old England, and the thing we learned about for him, they were all buildings. So castles, monasteries, and cathedrals. Okay, simple. But what happened since we had we had 9 topics, okay, 3, 3, 3, and then these 2 little ones. We spent a few weeks on these, like I told you, but then we just had 9 topics, and we spent 2 weeks on each topic. That means we had 6 weeks to go through King Arthur. And what would happen was we happened to have 9 teenagers in our group, and each teenager got to pick which part they wanted to teach. And it worked out pretty well. In fact, it was the best year for staying on schedule, because these kids were putting together, they were the visitors, or they got the visitor and brought them. Then their moms helped put together all the inquiries. So what would happen is, on opening day of a topic, everyone would meet together at somebody's house, and the teenager of that house or the teenager visiting would be the visitor, and she or he would give the key points. And then the mom of that teenager was the one in charge of helping put together some group inquiries for everybody. And this made me think of this. When we were doing St. Francis of Assisi, it was a lady whose son dressed up, and they had us make our own frescoes. And I just found this. This was actually plaster of Paris that they put wet. This was plaster of Paris wet that they put in a plate or something. And then we had to draw and paint on it. It was crazy. We're going home with these wet things. I mean, they dried a little bit, but I didn't realize I still kept that. I went and found it. But see, it was such a fun thing. There were different things that we did every time, but we stayed on track. And then after the 6 weeks, we always had a sabbatical week. We always took a week off, because kids were like finishing up research projects. So we made sure that every kid did a research project for each component. And then, see, the magic of meeting with groups is that then you kind of have an expectation of, we want to meet together with the group since everyone else is meeting. So we've got to get our act together and make sure our stuff gets done. So at the end of the sabbatical week, then we came together and had a closing day for this component. like a mini closure to say, okay, we're finished with King Arthur, and then we could go on to the next one. And with the next one, what do? We go to the next meet with somebody's house, and there's a teenager being the visitor. It was really fun. I love this year. Does anybody, I don't know if you guys have questions about that. Anyway, it was simple, 3 components, 2 baby ones, but 3 components and 3 topics each. And don't do a whole lot more than that, because if you read my blog, you'll see things that I did that, like when we did the American Girl Year, and we had 8 American girls to study, and we did 1 a month for 8 months, and it was crazy fast, and things would spill over and we wouldn't get done because we were too excited, and we'd keep working on this other one instead. And by the time we got to the end of the year for Molly, the World War II girl, I just thought we weren't going to be able to finish it. And my daughter, that was, I think she was 12, she said, we are finishing this and we're doing it. And even if we only had, I think we had 2 field trips or whatever. Anyway, we did finish it. Oh, you're seeing a lot of things for geography. How do you, okay, I will answer that at the end. Yes, you're right. You do see a lot of things for geography. And you can see, if you want to, you can go see on my blog too. I have several years that are on there, and I'm finishing up the blog. We actually, anyway, the next one, so that one was stay on schedule if you can. Just know too that you get off. You will get off because life happens, but just keep plowing through, and if you have to skip a topic, who cares? The next one, reignite your passion, because at some point of the year, especially after the holidays, for some reason, it's really hard for me. It's like, I want to stay in the holiday time visiting with my kids. During our Shakespeare year, my 11-year-old daughter, by December, she said to me, I think Shakespeare is boring. And I went, that is not happening. I didn't say that to her, but in my mind, I'm like, that is not going to happen. My daughter is going to love this year. And what I did was I got online and I searched everything I could for our next component, which was the Merchant of Venice. And sadly, I mean, this is how you learn from your mistakes. All the fall semester, all we had done, it was tragedies. We had done 2 tragedies, and she hated it. She hated it, which I guess, doing tragedies with 11-year-old kids. But anyway, we did the Merchant of Venice, which is not really a comedy, but according to Shakespeare, it's a comedy. And I mean, I found really fun stuff to do, like the gondola rides that we did in like Long Beach or wherever that was. And just different things like that. A bank to go to, and the bank manager came and talked all about finance with the teenagers and everything. And it was really fun. And we got to the end of that school year, and it was my daughter's favorite year, because I spent hours and hours trying to figure out what can we do to make the rest of this year exciting, and we did it. So it can be done even if halfway through the year they're bored to death. So here's what you do. Before the holiday comes, plan kick off something, or like we did in the night year, where you have the calendar all planned out, where you know which teenager is going to be giving the key points, so you can stay on track. But if you don't have that, plan some kind of a field trip or a fun little opening something for the time that is after the holidays. Just do it, and trust me, it'll help ignite your passion again. Okay, and your kids too. I'm almost finished. Actually, I'm only on 6. 6 is just document everything. Take as many pictures as you can of the theme and of non-thematic things. As a mother, and you are the one that's completely in charge, you need to feel like you need to look back over the year and go, oh yeah, we did that. Okay. There's more that I could tell you about that, but just do it. I'm going to say others on this one. There's 2 things about others. 1, school with at least 1 family if you can, because they really do help you stay on track. Okay. And your kids are excited to be together with their peers, even if it's just one or two. And two heads are better than one. They just are. And it just works. Even if you don't think you want to do the same things alike, it's amazing. I have so many stories I could tell you where I didn't want to do something, but I did it because somebody else wanted to, and then I loved it. So the second thing about others is tell all your friends what theme you're doing. I had so many friends in Southern California who would say, okay, tell me what your theme is this year. And then they'd look out for stuff for me. I don't have the time to tell you all the stories, but amazing things that they plopped into our laps and that just happened because they found out our theme. So share your theme with other people. And on that note, plan to do an open house at the end of the school year. I wish that I had done this more. I did it twice in 24 years, and I wish that I'd done it every year. And here's why. When you know you're going to do an open house, and go read about the open house. You guys probably read about it if you read my blog about the Colonial Escapade. That was our first theme we ever did. And my second year of homeschooling. And we did an open house because somebody told us to. So we did it. And guess what? It was amazing and fun and exciting. And it just helps your kids. The next time we did it, our kids ended up looking at everything going, wow, we really did a lot this year. So just do that and plan to have an open house, and go read my blog to see how to do that. And then plan for detours. Just know that it's okay that you don't get everything done, and that things are going to happen where you're going to have to skip stuff. So don't feel guilty. Just know, oh, it's okay. We can move forward. And if a kid, or if all of you say, oh, we really want to stay on this topic of submarines for, another week. Well, if you're with another group, you can't really do that so much. So you could, I guess, if you want to, and then just keep going and doing things with the other group. Or you could just have the kid, have them do it as a research project if they really love it a lot. So lastly, pat yourself on the back, because you want to embrace the good that you have done and celebrate what you've done with your kids and what they've learned. And don't look what you didn't do. I can't tell you how many times I cried to my husband about kids not getting their stuff done, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Part of that was I was young, hormonal, and having lots of kids. And I had, in the 24 years I homeschooled, I had 5 miscarriages that were at 20 weeks each. And so there were some years where I don't even know what we did. I mean, it felt like that sometimes. Let me give you some advice now. My last advice is just to tell you that you'll probably cry, and you'll probably despair, and you'll probably think, why am I so crazy to think that I could do this? And then you probably will feel like your kids are missing out, and they're getting the worst education ever, and everything will feel like chaos. And then there's the bad days. Okay, no, really, there are magical days when everything goes right. And really, for the first several years I homeschooled, people were like, oh my gosh, you spend so much time on this. How are you doing this? It must be so hard. And I thought, I'm having so much fun. I love this. This is exciting. I didn't know it was hard. I just have to tell you this one thing that happened. My youngest daughter, Giselle, when she was 9, she did not want to go to the opening day of Samantha, which was the Victorian girl. She's like, I don't like that doll. And I'm not going to go learn about the Victoria time. And, she was being really snotty. And I said, well, it's not an option. You're coming because I can't leave you home. So guess what happened? She got there. It was the most fun day. I mean, you'll have to go read that on my blog. It was such a fun day. And she came home saying that it was one of her favorites now. And later I asked her, why did you do that? And she goes, well, I was a brat. So your kids will be brats sometimes. I mean, if they're anything like mine, they'll be brats sometimes. And that's just how it is. Decide on what your minimum is then. Okay. Decide on your minimum to make you feel successful by the end of the day. This was my minimum. If we had had an opening prayer and we sang our school song and had a flag salute, that's what we called the opening of school. If we had done that, and then I read some thematic book to them, so they got the theme and we opened with a prayer, that was it. I was good. Then I went, oh yeah, we did school today and they learned something. Okay. And then of course they usually are, doing their math and all that. But as far as the theme goes and feeling successful, if we got to that, then I could feel good about it. Remember that they won't remember everything they learned, but they will remember how they felt. They're going to remember the feelings, the adventure, the excitement of learning and growing. My children interviewed World War II vets. They got to go in gondolas. They met Benjamin Franklin and flew kites. They learned to love to learn. My oldest daughter married someone who, when he graduated from the university, this is what he said to his wife. Good. Now I never have to read another book in my life. And she was flabbergasted. She couldn't believe it. She's like, what? And she's the one that taught him to love to read again, because your kids will be voracious learners if you help them to gain a love of learning. So that's what you want to do. I'm going to leave you with this poem. I'm not a poet, but somehow I got inspired during the Shakespeare year, and this just poured out one time. I was watching my oldest daughter with her oldest child, her little child, and my heart just became so full, and I was in the car driving, and this just poured out on the page. And this is for all of you guys. So I want you to remember this. This is the ode. I'll try not to cry. I probably should cover up my face. Ode to this unsung hero. The troubadours of days gone by caroled deeds of heroes past, of dragons slain, of cities saved, of maidens rescued at long last. But where the heroes of today, whose sacrifice inspires such praise, serving, counting not the cost, where such deeds to turn one's gaze? More courage by far than they of yore, she toils on both day and night, her purposed hand on cradle curled. She knows someday will rule the world. And that's what you are doing. You are molding immortal souls and you're changing the world. So my hat's off to you. This is not easy, but it's so worth it. My children are my magnum opus, and I know they're yours too. And a big part of that 24 years was homeschooling. So you guys unmute. Well, I'll take your questions that are on here now, and you don't have to pin me. I want to not pin me now. Okay, there. I'm going to go back to the chat really fast. So ideas for geography and history. I do not include tons of math in my year, as far as I still do math, but I'm saying we always have a separate program for math, because math is a language. So it's like French. If you're teaching French, there's certain things where you have to make sure you cover all these bases, unless you're a native speaker and can just speak to your child, right? But math is a language, and so it's nice to learn addition before they learn math. Yeah, I mean multiplication, right? So Jennifer Chafee, what was the name of that math program that lady talked about to us? Can you wait? Unmute yourself. Can you unmute yourself? Yeah. Here, put it in the chat. Just put it in the chat. On a phone, you have to just tap your phone, and then it'll pop up to unmute you. Or you can put it in the chat too. Anyway. History is really easy. We did a ton of history actually, and we did science too. So for instance, I mean, if you go look at my blog, you'll kind of see the science that we did during the Magic Carpet Ride through Lands of Enchantment. I didn't tell you guys how to write inquiries. There's a way, way more about all that, and I'm going to put some links in here. In fact, maybe I should share my screen. We're gonna go over a little bit here. But I have some links for you to go see some things. But say some of the science we did were like we raised silkworms and learned all about that. So some natural science there. And is that what you call natural science? Anyway, I can't remember the different ones. Anyway, but things like that. Some of the math things we did were like, for instance, whoops. What are you doing, Jennifer? You're sharing with me? I think you tried to, did you just take over my screen? Okay, hold on. What is going on? Who just did that? I don't know who did this. Oh, maybe I did. Oh, Bridie did that. Wait. Okay, sorry. Sorry, you guys. Is this? Okay, here we go. Okay, there we go. That wasn't Bridie. Was that you, Bridie? Anyway, put stuff in the chat if you can. Otherwise, we'll get the information to you. We heard of a really cool math thing that sounded really fun. So when we were learning about the 13 colonies, and my kids were young, they were like 8 and 6. So they were learning about the 13 colonies. And what they did was, one of the inquiries was a math inquiry. And what it was is they were supposed to ask 13 people how to name the 13 colonies. And then they were to do a graph and graph the results. And I still remember my 6-year-old daughter getting off the phone with her grandparents and going, Mom, she only knew 5 of them, or something like that, right? And she knew all 13 at 6 years old. So she thought all the adults would know. It was pretty funny. So yes, we did things like that. There's something, Amanda, you guys have those inquiry sheets, and I do too. And I'm wondering if your mom has them online somewhere. But let me share with you Karen's site, you guys. Here we go. I'm going to share with you her. Whoops. Hold on. I don't know why I can't do this. Okay, here we go. Let me share my screen. And then you guys can see. Yeah, here we go. All right. This is Karen's site that is not really kept up anymore. So not everything is on here. But she documented the school year that we did some of this. So she documented our opening date. Look at this group. It was incredible. You couldn't do that if it was your first year, really. I was the queen. Okay, so she has a bunch of stuff on here though. But what you could do is she's got Journals of Discovery on here. So if you want to learn more, you can go to her Journals of Discovery. Let me put this one in the chat, if I can do that really fast. Okay, so there's the Journals of Discovery. This one is Epic Adventure, and she put my kids on there. She put different stuff. Maybe some of it I wrote. I don't know. Maybe I did write this. Anyway, and then this one, if you look on the left here, you can see where she did document some of the things. This is another year. This is our World War II year, where she didn't do this. She did Raiders of the Renaissance Mines, but she didn't do the other ones. This is her daughters, and this is the Jane Austen Charles Dickens Literary Society. So you can go and look at some of the things on there and get ideas of what's happening. There are some sheets of what we do where we do linguistic inquiries to give us ideas for doing, say, in linguistic inquiries, spatial inquiries, science inquiries, math inquiries. There's a lot of ideas with that. And if you need help, here is, let me put this in here. It's called It's called homeschoolepicadventures.com. So hsepicadventures.com. I'm going to pop it right in here for you guys. Okay. This is something that Karen and I wrote, and a few others wrote this. It's called The Noble Birthright, Defenders of the Title of Liberty. And we wrote it. We don't get any money off of this. Someone else is running this site because Karen's site is not working because she has passed away now. So you can go and purchase these things though, but $97 is super cheap. I ended up putting this one together. So The Heroes, A Rendezvous with Destiny, Adventure Down the Mississippi is actually a book that you can buy on Amazon as well, but I'd rather get it electronically. And this is not the Magic Carpet Ride. I came up with this, but Karen's sister was teaching something else like 4 to 8-year-olds. And so she put together her own thing and used the same ideas. There is a big book. It's huge. It's massive. I actually have it here, and it's massively huge that you can buy on Amazon too. But of how to write an epic adventure. If you're new to epic adventures, do not get that unless you have to know every detail, because it might be a little overwhelming. My blog might be overwhelming to you. I don't know. But hopefully I showed you tonight on, here, let me show you here's my blog too. Here, I'll send this to you. Hopefully I showed you when I showed you those prickly cactus, key points and inquiries that you can see it's not rocket science, and you can really do this. Okay. So the reason why I didn't ever mean to do a blog. This was part of my family blog, but I was sharing too many things publicly on here of my grandkids. So my daughter said, let's just put all your homeschool stuff over in a separate blog from our family blog, and then you can keep it public for people that want to homeschool. So that's why we did that. I never intended to do a blog, but now after all these years, I'm finishing them up. Actually, I'm doing them. So I know it probably looked like we did a lot of geography things, but usually we didn't. We did a lot of history, it seems like. One year we wanted to have a huge science year where we were really focused on all the different branches of science. But somebody wanted to, so we both wanted to do science, but Karen really wanted to do knights, and she wanted to read Howard Pyle's The Story of King Arthur and His Knights. How do you take science and King Arthur and put them together? And guess how we did it? We did a year called Knights of the Periodic Table, and it was so fun. It was really fun, and that is on my blog too. Okay, somebody put, what did the research projects look like? Were they written papers or posters? Okay, so a research project, let me see if I can think of a simple one. So you, I thought I didn't mention one. One of my sons was 3, I think, when we were doing the Secret Garden. And his research project that he presented to the group, maybe it was 4. Anyway, he did it on seeds, and he just all year long, all component long, he collected all these seeds and just taped them down on pieces of paper or cardstock. Excuse me. He came, and for his presentation, he had a pot on his head, and he told everybody he was Johnny Appleseed. And then he told us about his seeds, and then he showed us the largest seed in the world, which is a coconut. So that was his presentation, super easy. My oldest daughter did one on roses, and she actually documented all of her stuff of how she planted a rose and what to do, and all these different things. You learn a lot when your kids are doing things like that, because my other daughter did a research project on ladybugs, and we had been killing all the ladybug larvae because we didn't know what they looked like. And when she did that research project, we were like, oh, we've been killing all those weird looking things. We didn't know they were ladybug larvae. So they can present them like that, or if they don't want to talk about them, I mean, usually we had people get up and talk about them, but sometimes they're things that are like, it's something they've built, like a mission, right? Like a California mission, and then they can show and tell people about it. Or Amanda I know Amanda did one when she was growing up where it was all on wildflowers, and she did a year-long research project where it was all on wildflowers, and she had this whole binder full of all of her stuff. Does that make sense what research projects are? It's more just like a focus on something, and you can see, go read some of my blogs because I'm posting the last the Magic Carpet Ride is 2 parts, and I'm posting the second one that I've been working on. And we talk about research projects. Like my daughter for China, she learned how to make paper, and she documented herself too. And she took pictures of herself gathering old flowers in our backyard that were falling off of our, our Lady Banks roses. And she gathered all this plant material and blended it all up and, did all the stuff. Another daughter did a research project on origami. And she had all this origami on a poster. And then for the inquiry part of it, she taught the whole group how to do some origami. Okay. Oh, there, Jennifer Chafee. Did you guys see that? Life of Fred. Somebody told us about it and said it was so fun that their kids just begged to do math. It doesn't go sequentially, this lady said. So it might be more like learning a language. I don't know if it's enough, but check it out. Okay. Oh, okay. Artwork, the artwork on your wall. You're so cute. Yes, I painted it, and because of my business, I'm on Zoom a lot, and so I wanted to have the temple behind me. And I didn't make my spires tall enough, so I've been meaning to redo it. So anyway, oh wait, that was to me perfect privately. Anyway, thank you. Are there any other things? Do you guys have other questions on here? Does anybody want to unmute? I would love to see everybody's face for a second and say hi. But anyway, anybody else? What did you say, Elise? Is your name Elise?
I wanted to ask you about your open house. What did your open house look like? What kind of things did you do there? Good.
So just briefly, and that is on my Colonial Escapade year that we did. It was our first school year. But real briefly, we made a flyer, and that was the olden days where we drew it because we didn't have computers. And we just made a flyer, and we told our family and friends that lived nearby that we were going to have an open house for our school, and that it was American Revolution and the founding of America, and we would love to have them come. So we had, if you know what a hornbook is, that's what they used in school to learn. We made hornbook cookies as gingerbread cookies for people's treats. We had treats. We took all of our posters, everything we had, and put them all over the walls. The kids would take some of their things, maybe a picture, and then put it on some cardstock, and then write underneath it, this field trip was to, whatever, and then put it up on the wall so people could see it. We had other things where we had displays, like my kids made a salt box house, if you know New England, salt box house, or we had made a model of Independence Hall, so we had that. And I dressed up in my Abigail Adams stuff, and I actually did a macaroni, and a macaroni are those big white hairdos. And I did it in shaving cream. And it stayed all night. It was pretty funny. Anyway, and it's so easy to make a wig for men to turn them into George Washington. You just grab some batting and go like this, and then you sew a line for a part, and then you put some, and it was just so easy. We just made up our own stuff. Nowadays, you could probably find all the stuff online, but really sometimes simpler is better if you don't know all the stuff, because sometimes we gather too much information and then you don't know what to do. An easy place to get key points, just on the side here, or an easy place to get ideas, is just getting a children's book, you see? So instead of having to look up how to make a George Washington's wig, you could probably just do it yourself. Anyway,
like a costume, show off their work, show off what they had learned type.
Yes, we sang for them. I think we sang I think we sang maybe Yankee Doodle. We really didn't have a school song that year, but we did learn about Yankee Doodle. One of our neighbors came in and he brought a musket and a coonskin cap like Daniel Boone, who was in colonial times. And the kids were so excited about that. So he came and taught us some things that night too. So, and that was really fun because then the kids could share. So yes, they were all in their costumes. And the other family, so there were only 2 of us, the other family, they did an open house too. And theirs was different than ours. But it was just a way, whatever you wanted to display and share thematic treats and stuff. We did one for our Shakespeare year, and that was really, really fun too. We hung huge banners. We had these banners and somebody just gave them to me. I mean, huge. And our whole wall was transformed. Our whole house was transformed into like this castle thing. And we put up all the stuff about EPIC and about how your brain learns. We did that. And my kids, that's one of the reasons that my daughter could look back, that 11-year-old daughter could look back and go, oh, I learned so much stuff this year, you know. Anyway, I haven't blogged that one yet, but I'm getting to it because it's my next one. So yeah, just any ideas like that. Does anybody else?
Hi.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Jeannie. I'm sorry. It was me. I was like I think when I did the Zoom thing, I didn't get on the app. I was just in a hurry because we just got home from baseball, and it like took me onto the web version and I couldn't do anything. And it was like so frustrating. I was like trying to tell you, it's the life of Fred. That's the math.
Thank you. Yes,
and
thank you.
Sorry about that. And also thank you, Jeannie. I think I feel better now. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't sew and I really don't know music. I don't think I can pull anything like this off. But now I think I can, especially.
I'm going to show you guys
I
something.
like the 2 weeks.
Yes. I want to show you something to make you so that you can see. We used to keep the theme secret for the year because that's the way Karen did it. So I did it too. And then it was this big reveal on opening day, right? But if you go look at, we stopped that for the Magic Carpet Ride, and for the American Girl year, all I did was my kids were doing something with American Girl online. It was this new thing back in whenever that was, 2004. And as they were learning all this stuff, I thought, oh, that would be so fun to do an American Girl year. I said that and they would not let it go. And that's why we did that year. So they knew what was coming. But for one of the years, I did this. Okay, I put a t-shirt on my head, like, and I tried to make it because I didn't have a Renaissance hat. So I tried to make this, it looked better than this, but I just grabbed it. I grabbed a t-shirt, a colored t-shirt probably, and I had a cape, but you could do anything. And I wanted to introduce, we started having this thing where we would introduce the school year before the school year, like way back in April or May or June for the next year, so that then they would, know what I'm working on all summer, and then they don't care. Okay, so I will always remember that Shakespeare's birthday is April 23rd, because that's when I did this. I wanted them to know what we were doing the next year, because I was starting to work on it, and I didn't want it to I didn't want them to go, ew, Shakespeare, you know. I wanted them to be excited. So I said, you guys, I have something to show you. And I brought them in my room, and then I said, all the world's a stage and all the men and women in it are merely players. And my daughter yells out Shakespeare, and I'm like, how did you know that? Anyway, and then I had just had there was this book that had this little guy in it, and I just printed it off with those words, all the world's a stage, and I gave them these, and that was it. And I said, happy birthday, Shakespeare. This is what we're learning this year. That was it. And there's a guy, there's actually a video called A Touch of Greatness, and it's about this teacher that did amazing things in a public school, and how he had costumes and all kinds of stuff, and Shakespeare and all kinds of things. And he said the feathered cap and a cape, you get those 2 things and they're with you. And it made me think, and it's true. I pulled this out because I have to show you really fast. every December, several years in December, I have done this. I'm teaching adults on a Zoom, and for my business, I was teaching essential oils of the Bible. So I had to teach it like this, because it was always in December and we were talking about myrrh and frankincense and all that kind of stuff. And so I started doing this, and then we played some music and everything. And isn't that way more fun than just, not? So it's not just kids, it's adults too. Stop making things boring. Just, do something fun. Go read about what we did, how we made a Japanese garden in our house. That was one of the most fun days. And I woke up that morning going, what are we going to do today? And I was not inspired. And I got myself inspired, and then it just happened. So get some ideas. If you read on my blog, you'll know some stuff. And I will try, if you put comments in there, I'll try to remember to get to you guys and answer you if you have questions. What somebody else put stuff in the chat? Oh, oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Amanda. What are other, do you guys have other questions? Anything?
Me again.
Yes.
Sorry. I was just looking at all my messenger. I had invited like 7 girls that I found on Facebook, and I don't think that I see any of them here. Are any of you guys in Southern Utah?
Anybody in Southern Utah? Does anybody know anyone that homeschools in Southern Utah? Because that would be awesome. Jennifer's looking for someone.
It would be cool, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's good to be with you.
Yeah, 2 of my sisters and one of my sister-in-laws all homeschool in Cedar City, Enoch area.
Oh, cool. That's cool. Do they end up coming to St. George all the time because there's a Costco here? I know a lot of moms do. I see homeschool moms at the park all the time, and they're like, we're from Cedar, but they just like pop in because there's no Costco anywhere except for St. George.
Why don't you guys exchange numbers if you want to in the chat privately if you want. Elizabeth, were you going to say something too?
Yeah, I have 2 or 3 sister-in-laws there in St. George and a good friend there that homeschools. So I can give you my number and we can exchange numbers too.
Great.
So
So I'm going to post this on YouTube again, and I keep it private. Is it private or unlisted? It's unlisted. So if you have the link, you can find it. Yeah, that's how it is. So, any other questions? You guys, this was the fastest thing. We barely scratched the surface, as Amanda and
I have a question.
Bridie. Yes.
So how do you set up, well, I have a few questions. How do you set up your day, your schedule kind of thing? And how, so did you do test, how are you preparing kids for college or for later on? How do you know if they're meeting certain milestones with where they're at with different things? Obviously you want to cater it to their level and things, but just making sure, that they're being prepared as well.
Yeah.
What did you do for that?
So we had certain things in their senior year that they had to do that were not thematic at all. And we had some stuff set up where they had to read The Creature of Jekyll Isle and learn all about the Federal Reserve. And they wrote papers. All through high school, they're writing papers. When they're little, they didn't have to, but sometimes they were so inspired that they did anyway. They wrote their papers, right? So they did, there were certain amounts in high school, and I kept their transcripts too. I kept track of their transcripts because I was with an umbrella school, not to do anything so much, but just to be able to file our papers in California. We did it with one umbrella school that they had leadership classes once a week for high schoolers. And my kids, some of them did the leadership stuff. Ashley, you did that with Hal and Chase. Yeah. And so, and they really, your kids need to know how to write. Like that's a big thing. They need to know how to write and they need to know how to read and they need to know how to do math. And so I didn't look at like, what does the state expect everyone to know? I didn't do that because we started seeing the exit questions they would always ask in our newspaper back in the old days when we got newspapers. We would see the exit questions that they would ask these high school graduates. My kids, little, knew all the answers. And the high schoolers didn't. And so, you know, for some reason, when you help your kids be passionate about learning, they can get it. In fact, somebody said, what, you can really teach an adult algebra in 45 minutes where they get it, right? So it's not that I didn't do stuff and didn't have expectations for them. I did, but I would say maybe the Utah Homeschool Educators Association, that used to be a really good site for where you could look at something like that and say, what would be some expectations for high schoolers? My kids, my second daughter graduated a year early, and then she did community college, and then she went right into BYU and then on a scholarship. And then several of my kids did do college classes concurrently, but guess what? They're there brain-wise, but the smut that's in there, even in the community college, we only did that a little bit, and then we decided not to do that anymore. So it's just like, I'm not going to expose my 14-year-old to that, even though she could do it. Right. And so there are online things too, if your kids want to have more high school type stuff, like leadership stuff. Also, for the last 3 years, I taught Latin to the high schoolers, and we had high school classes that we did and did different things with them, leadership stuff and Greek drama and stuff like that. So, but did I prepare them according to the codes of the state? Nope, I didn't. Do you know that the highest test scores in the nation for language on all the SAT and ACT score or SAT scores are those kids that know Latin? So what's the point of, prepping for this and prepping for that? Why don't they just do some real learning? I could give you a really good 2-hour lecture on why your kids should learn Latin. And I will tell you where to go to. Go to memoriapress.com and do their first form. And if you want to get a hold of me or something, I could tell you, I still have my binders about why your kids should learn Latin and why you were so gypped, and I was too, that we did not learn Latin. We should have in this country, but there's a reason why, and it's really sad.
What was it called?
It's called memoriapress.com. Memoria is, Latin. Memoriapress.com. They do have a YouTube channel I've not seen very much, but I still get their magazines, which it's like their magazine / catalog. And they're really into doing all the scholarly stuff. I only did Latin from them because if you do the theme, your kids will be exposed to everything, really. They will be exposed to all the stuff you need them to know, because my kids are lifelong learners, voracious readers, everything. So, you said you saw on Facebook for a guy who actually teaches Latin. Okay, my friend had Latina Christiana, which is from Memoria Press. It's before they got first form, but I did Latina Christiana, and I learned it in one summer, and I taught it to them, and it is awesome. What you do is you do all the teacher stuff, and you get the videos, and you watch those videos that Memoria Press does. It's amazing. I could tell you so much about Latin. It's so much fun. My students loved it. When my youngest daughter was the only one I ever did Latin with, because I was, having babies with all these other kids, and I didn't know about Memoria Press. So on her very first day, when she knew she was doing Latin, she's like, and kind of rolls her eyes. She came home from Latin the very first day. After I had come as the visitor. I was Julius Caesar salad with some romaine leaves on me, and I was holding these kids. I didn't even know these kids, and I walked out in front of them as Julius Caesar salad. I had some salad dressing, but anyway, it was really fun what we did. And my daughter gets home from the first lesson, the first Latin lesson, and she calls her friend on the phone. Yes, and I'm taking Latin this year, She kept all of her Latin stuff because she loved it. She still has all of her Latin stuff. So it's really important. Do Latin, and then your language skills are great. You don't need to do anything else. And then for math, I don't know. What was the one we did? I don't remember. Jennifer, somebody said it when we were there at that park. But anyway, yeah, we did it and it was fine. Here's something. My husband did a lot of high school stuff, to answer your question. He did, once the kids got to algebra, he did once a week lectures with my kids and did whiteboard lessons with them and stuff, because he's passionate about about mathematical arts, and I'm passionate about the language arts and the other arts. And so we traded that way. So he did teach that. And that's great, because then they have somebody else. So if you want to get a math tutor or somebody fun to do stuff with, that's great too. Did you guys want to say something else? Oh, Saxon math. Yes, Jennifer, we did Saxon math. It wasn't like it was so much fun, but one of my sons said to me one day, he was like 8 or 10 years old or something. He's like, Mom, I hate math. And I told him my story about hating sewing, but I did it anyway. And then I started talking to him about how I started telling myself, I love to sew, I love to sew, I love to sew, because I always sewed Christmas pajamas and stuff. And I told him how all of a sudden I started loving to sew. So he did that. And guess what his favorite subject was by the end of the year? He loved math. He came up with all these games and amazing things he did all the time. And so my older kids did not do the theme all the way through. You can see that in my blog. They didn't do the theme all the way through high school, especially my boys. My oldest daughter was with us in the theme all the way through high school, but all the rest of them, everybody did something different. Okay. What else? Okay. What else? Does anybody have any questions? It's kind of a lot. There is a lot more, but you can get a lot off of Karen's site and off of my site too. What we need is, there's some papers that you need, and they're these papers that Karen came up with about how to write inquiries, or like ideas for inquiries, like writing to the newspaper, which we don't do anymore, but things like that. So language art ideas for inquiries, and art ideas for inquiries, and like this. Okay, so we wrote that book, this book, Noble Birthright, here. So then key points, and then let me see. Okay, so we had, can you see that? Language and social studies ideas for inquiries. These things down here were writer's workshop stuff. We did all kinds of things with writer's workshop, like language tools, art inquiries, music inquiries. What was the next one? Math inquiries, science inquiries, literature, dance and drama, and then more language and social studies and art and music, and more science and math. There were a lot in here, but they just kept spilling over onto the next page. So this one really had a ton. So you could get a curriculum if you wanted. It would be a really good investment for $97. All that money goes for is for upkeep on that website, which I don't run, but I do know the lady who does it. In fact, I just texted her today, Melanie Cameron. She doesn't homeschool kids anymore, but she keeps that website up just and helps pay for it off of the sale of the curriculum. It would be, if you wanted to buy a curriculum off of there, I don't know, just buy one of them for $97 if you want, and it will show you how to write inquiries. In fact, you could probably pull some straight off of here. That it's an idea. It would be a really good investment, but don't get bogged down in all the other stuff you have to read. Just get the ideas for, the inquiries. Where do you buy it, Jennifer? I put it in the chat. What it is where is it? Okay, here we go. It is this site right here. It's it's not that one, that's my blog. It's this site. It's called HS, so homeschoolepicadventures.com. And I clicked on the shop now, so you could see. So you could read Noble Birthright, we wrote really early. It doesn't have exactly all the epic stuff. It's all the stuff. It's just, we didn't come up with the EPIC idea. This, we didn't have it here either. Where did we, this is a good one, but it is pretty technical as far as, like, this is World War II, and we did a lot of heavy duty history in there. This is a good one too, but this was the first one that Karen ever wrote. And this is for little kids. So you could get How to Write an Epic Adventure, and then just don't look at everything to scare yourself, but just look up how to do inquiries. That might be a good idea. I told you not to get it, but maybe you should. Guess what? Guess what? Here she's giving you ideas for how to do mind maps. Here, I'm gonna stop sharing so you can see this really fast. Okay, let me just show you really fast on here. Here we go. So she gives you ideas for mind maps and like how to actually put together a mind map. Let me see. Yes, here they are. Here's what I wanted to share with you, but I guess they're copyrighted now. See all this? Inquiry ideas. So she has linguistic things. So for instance, for linguistic, a kid could write an award. They could write an obituary. What if you had a kid that wrote an obituary for Julius Caesar, right? I mean, that would be awesome to have something like that, right? There's more linguistic ideas. This one is logical, mathematical. So making a machine, doing measuring, growth, temperature, organizing, alphabetizing things. There's more. This one is spatial ideas like measuring, making documents, drawings, musical ideas, like having a child write a ballad. That's musical and mathematical, actually. Okay, writing music, writing a hymn, doing a dance, making up a dance to go with something. She has bodily kinesthetic ideas for like drama or exercise or locating stuff, making a TV show. Oh, my kids, we had so much fun doing TV shows or commercials. So like one of my daughters did, she did a Greek cooking show, and she showed how to do baklava, and she's talking all about Athena and all this kind of stuff because she's pretending like she's in ancient Greece. And then she had her siblings help her do all these commercials in between for them. And anyway, they were pretty funny. Like one of the commercials was recruiting for the war, for the Trojan War. Okay, so those kind of things. You think that that's just play, but look at all the stuff they're learning. And how many adults do you know that know how to name Agamemnon and all those people from the Peloponnesian and Trojan Wars and all those things? Nobody can do that. I mean, not nobody, but I'm just saying we just don't have we just don't have that education anymore. But my kids were doing it when they were little. See, and then they remember it if it's in a TV show that you watch over and over because you've created it. So, what is the best way to stay positive and motivated when things get hard? Okay, we do Father's blessings if you're religious and you have a husband who has the priesthood. We do Father's blessings at the beginning of the year too. And one of the things we do, so I always do them. I printed them out thematically. So we would keep them. So here's the front of my binder, and on the back of my binder is my blessing. So I'd keep reading my blessing, staying positive. If you're not inspired, your kids are not going to be inspired. So if you're really, I tell the story in this thing I'm about to post about the Magic Carpet Ride. So part 2 of Magic Carpet Ride, I tell a story how I woke up one morning and I wasn't inspired at all. And I didn't know what to do. And so I just thought, what can I do? And I came up with deciding to do a Japanese garden because I didn't feel like doing anything hard that day. And it became one of the most magical days ever. And yet we learned all about design. We learned all about the elements that are in a Japanese garden, things like that. And the whole point is that it doesn't matter what they learn. It's, are they excited about it? And do they know how to learn? That's what's key. And guess what? You're not going to stay motivated when things get hard all the time. And I told you, I really did cry a lot through the years. Maybe it wasn't as much as I remember, but I did cry. I'd tell my husband, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And he'd say, well, we can put him in public school. And I'd say, no, I don't want to put him in public school. So it does get hard, but try to take a day off. I think in the last years that we did stuff, we didn't do like hard, whatever school on Friday. Like we would take that day off to go do something else or do the field trip or something on Friday because we would only do 4 days of school or something. Just know that everything you're doing is you're probably getting a lot more. They're probably getting a lot more from you than what is happening someplace else. Anyway, I don't know what to say except for get excited yourself. Okay. Like I said about, I had to reignite myself after Christmas time and make sure you're with a group. That really helps because then you stay on track. So Elizabeth, are you with a group and do you guys calendar out your year every time so you know when things are coming? Because if you want to unmute, you can. And tell me. Anyway, that really does help to calendar out your year and don't schedule too much stuff. Like I told you, we only scheduled out 18 weeks and that was a lot. Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm with Bridie's group and Aubrey's group. So yes, we plan our whole year out and schedule everything, which does really help. But I'm just, I really appreciate your advice. I've got 5 kids and littles. So it gets really discouraging some days with the toddler crying and the baby crying and nap time and everything. Yes. So yes, it's great, but it can be really hard.
So I read thank you for clarifying because that reminds me of when I was in that position and I had 4 under the end of the age of 8 and a little one. And I read the article by Oliver DeMille, which if you guys know the Thomas Jefferson Education book by Oliver DeMille, I think he wrote the article or his wife did called "The Baby is the Lesson." And does it really matter that you get through all the stuff? Don't just try to get that out of your mind. You're not trying to get through anything. What you're trying to do is inspire them. And you're trying to help them be a wonderful, heroic person on their own, right? And when the baby is crying and they can watch you, how even though you are in the middle of a math lesson with somebody, how you can be patient and kind and loving and teach them And then they see by example, and then the baby becomes the lesson, because I mean, that's way more valuable than learning their times tables that day. True. And just know that they don't have to get through everything. Yeah. I mean, my kids did. They had to get through a certain level of their math. You know, there were certain spelling things we had to get through for certain kids that didn't spell as well. There were certain things they had to do in high school to graduate from our high school. But while kids are little and everything, just chill out a little bit more. I wish I had done less. Not in school necessarily, but I wish if I could go back and change things with the 6 kids, I would do less. I had big callings in church and stuff, and I would do less as far as, yeah, just spending more time on people and not as much time on, you could probably tell by my blog, I do a lot of stuff. And so I would do less and spend time being a soothing mom rather than a super mom.
Good advice. Thank you.
Yeah. Have you ever read that talk? Are you a member?
I have not. No, I am a member, but I don't think I've read that talk.
I mean, it's probably 20 years old, but I think it was Elder Ballard or Elder Nelson. Maybe Elder Nelson.
I'm a convert, so
Oh, you
that's
are?
before my time.
Yes. You could look
Yeah.
at Soothing Moms, Super Moms, LDS. You could Google that and you'd probably find it. But he said his wife was not a super mom. She was a soothing mom. And that's more important.
Yeah.
So, I was more of a super mom. So somebody said, what's the name of the Thomas Jefferson book? It's called Thomas Jefferson Education by Oliver DeMille. Here, I'll put it in here. Anyway, yeah, there's so much too. That's why I kind of wanted you guys to see those key points on my prickly cactus, you know, my prickly pear thing. I wanted you to see that so you could see that you don't have to overcomplicate it. Throw a t-shirt on your head and a blanket, whatever, and then you've got them. Okay. Try to be inspired yourself. Oh, Diane Hopkins. You're right. I think Diane Hopkins might have written that article, Bridie. And I think I have all the articles that she used to publish, all those newsletters. I think I have it. I don't know if you remember it, but your mom knows that lesson. I had several of my articles published in her newsletter too. That was way back in like 1992, 93, 94. Anyway, just remember, they are watching you, and I hope you have the best table manners ever. I hope you have the best social manners ever. Let them see how you talk about your parents, your siblings, other people. Let them see all the good that you want them to be, because that's way more important than anything else. They're going to do everything you do. And yeah, I don't have the best table manners sometimes. Anyway, in public I do, but your kids are your public, so do that. Okay. Okay, well, we'll just end this. Thanks for being here, everybody. That was really fun. And if you want to get a hold of me, I guess just ask anybody that you contacted, and I would be glad to answer some questions if you want. You guys could give them, I can give you my email address in here really fast. I don't do anything. I haven't homeschooled for a long, long time. I run a business now, and I'm on a mission and a bunch of things. So, oh yeah, I'll have to tell you guys, you Kindred girls, I'm on a mission right now. I'll have to tell you about it. So, okay. Anybody want to say anything else? I would love to say goodbye to you if you guys want to pop open your video and say goodbye.
I'll say bye. Thank you, Jeannie. You're the best.
Thanks, Jennifer. Good to see you. Nice to meet you, Elizabeth, Elise, Ashley. Good to see you. Goodbye, Amanda.
Hey,
Sarah.
Jeannie.
That was
I'm in my Tupac painting shirt, so that can't go on film.
I'm in my paint clothes too.
You're in your paint
Thank
clothes?
you.
You guys are painting?
Yeah.
That's so funny. Oh, well, thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks,
You're
Jeannie.
welcome. Thanks,
you.
Lisa.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Oh,
Bye.
thanks, you guys. Take care.
Bye.
I'll put this online and